When a man woke up, finds an egg in front of him, he thought it was a dream. But when he went to the street, he found everyone had one. But when he asked them, they couldn't see anything. What's more, his egg was black, while others were white, and there is a countdown on the egg. All of this seemed too weird. He really doesn't know if it will explode when the time is up, but he couldn't figure it out. I could only give up helplessly. At this time, his deskmate asked him if he wanted to go to B to get some air at night. The man wondered why he would go there at night. You know that B has wrapped the world for a long time. No matter how scientists study and break it, it will repair itself, so people can't get out at all. Of course, there are also rumors that someone went out and his deskmate told him the reason. It turned out that Senior Yao Tian found a red egg, which immediately caught the man's attention. The red egg. His intuition told him that it would be related to the black egg. Then he went with his deskmate at night. Unexpectedly, there were other people at the scene. Seeing that everyone was almost there, he led them in a direction. But at this time, Feng Xiaolun was very strange. The senior didn't come. Could it be that the countdown has reached? The egg broke and they went in the direction of B, but they still didn't see the red egg here. Everyone was asking. But at this time, the senior suddenly showed a sinister smile. Then some black gas emerged from behind him. Finally, a claw emerged from inside, and a red egg was held on the claw. Everyone was shocked. They had never seen such a situation before. They all turned and ran away. Only Feng Xiaolun stood there in a daze, asking the senior what he wanted to do. The senior said, "Didn't you want to see it?" Which is his most precious thing. It not only made him reborn, but also showed him a different scene. Feng Xiaolun didn't want to listen to his nonsense, turned around and ran out. But unexpectedly, the senior's tentacles suddenly hugged him and pulled him back in front of him. Then he said something that surprised him. The senior's black egg actually reacted to Feng Xiaolun. When he looked back, the egg had somehow grown a face and was opening its mouth wide to attack his black egg. However, just as it was about to eat, the black egg suddenly blurred and suddenly appeared behind the red egg. Then several rays of light flashed. The next second, the red egg was suddenly cut into pieces. Just as Feng Xiaolun didn't know what happened, the senior suddenly fell down without warning. He looked closer. He found that he was out of breath. A thought suddenly came to his mind. Could it be because the red egg was cut? What he didn't notice was that the eyeball of the red egg that fell to the ground suddenly fell off, and then a thing crawled out of it. Something that looked like a creature. Then it suddenly drilled into the senior's foot. Unexpectedly, the next second, he stood up. The only difference was a hole in his chest. The man didn't know how the senior died a second ago. The next second, the senior stood up again, and there was a hole in his chest. What was even more creepy was the laughter of a child from his mouth. Then he said the hunting game had begun. Feng Xiaolun was confused. What the hell is going on? At this time, Heidan only had over an hour left. He just wanted to lie flat. Why is it so hard? Then the senior said some strange words. The black egg beside him is a different kind. Normal white eggs are ingredients, and red eggs are soldiers. Then he rushed towards Feng Xiaolun in one step and directly knocked him to the ground. At this time, he wondered why the black egg didn't help. The senior saw his confusion, telling him that he couldn't attack people in egg form. The only way is to merge with humans. Finally, he rushed towards him again. Feng Xiaolun immediately used all his strength to dodge, but at this time, the senior's speed was much faster than him, instantly kicking him to the ground again. Then he directly pressed on his body and raised his paw to pierce his head. However, at this moment, Black Egg suddenly emitted a strange ripple. The next second, the senior found that his body couldn't move. Feng Xiaolun took the opportunity to stand up and then ran out nonstop, but he ran for a long time without getting out of the radiation area. However, at this time, he didn't know that someone was staring at him from the tree. There was also a strange person beside him. Heiko spoke human words. "Master, he should be the end of the world. It's not certain yet. Let's observe first." At this time, Feng Xiaolun found a cave in the distance, so he decided to run inside and hide for a while. He guessed that it should be Haiden who helped him, and Heidan only had 3 minutes left. But he couldn't do anything. He could only wait and see what would happen. Time was quickly down to the last 5 seconds. When the time stopped at 0, Black Egg actually grew a pair of wings, and a key appeared on his head. Feng Xiaolun took it in confusion. When he completely pulled out the key, Heidan's time returned to 24 hours. At this moment, the senior also found a pillow. Feng Xiaolun could only look at Haiden with a pleading face. Although Haydn is black, but he could also feel his helplessness. He used his wings to compare the key and the senior's chest. Fang Xiaolun immediately understood what he meant. He wanted him to insert the key into his chest. Then he rushed towards the senior fiercely, but the senior saw his intention and dodged sideways and then kicked him away with a kick. Because the senior's movements were too fast, he couldn't get close to him. It seems that he can't fight, only by wits. Then he directly dropped the key and taunted the senior to teach him a lesson. This made the senior flash and press him to the ground. Then he started beating him up. Fang Xiaolun suddenly said, "Hey Dan," and hit him with a stone. The senior immediately turned around to look. However, taking this opportunity, Fang Xiaolun quickly picked up the key on the ground and suddenly inserted it into his chest. Then, with a click, some energy suddenly appeared in the senior's chest and wrapped around Fang Xiaolun. The next second, he arrived in a strange place. Just as he was puzzled, the person who had been observing him suddenly appeared. They grabbed him and hid quickly. When they hid behind a stone, a man with an unclear face and a monster appeared, and their bodies were incredibly huge. The man who was originally killed by the giant. Unexpectedly, after his egg was injected with some strange liquid, he stood up again and became even more ferocious. When Fang Xiaolun dodged the giant, he asked the person next to him where this was. The man said he only had sporadic memories. It seemed to be a giant synthesis land. Finally, they decided to go to a safe place first, but after running for a while, the man suddenly stopped. Suddenly, the sphere in the sky changed, as if something was about to come out. Then, the next second, something fell out of it. Upon closer inspection, it was a faceless fish-like monster. However, when they were surprised, a voice came from behind them. It turned out that two little bugs were playing here. They were the pet of the giant just now. They found the person next to him. They jumped up and rushed towards him. Then some green flames appeared in his hand. He waved his hand at the pet, and several explosions sounded. Fang Xiaolun wanted to take the opportunity to run away. However, at this moment, something suddenly shot him in the head, and he fell to the ground, unconscious. It turned out that the giant had rushed over, and at this time, there was a wound on Haydn's body, but the wound suddenly spread. Then he dripped some strange liquid, hit Fang Xiaolun's head, and the giant was also shocked at this time, because his body couldn't move, and could only watch Haydn helplessly. But when the liquid was finished, Fang Xiaolun's body turned into a pool of black water, while Haydn turned into a white egg. Just when the giant was confused, the originally black liquid, something suddenly emerged from it, and gradually formed a human figure. Finally, Fang Xiaolun was resurrected. But at this time, he looked mysterious and powerful. The giant felt there was a dangerous aura on him, but he couldn't move to retreat. Fang Xiaolun walked towards him step by step just when he thought he was going to die. The man in the distance was knocked down by his pet. Fang Xiaolun was immediately attracted by the sound, and he decided to save the man first. Then he punched the giant pet. Unexpectedly, he was easily knocked away. However, in the next second, 3 beads suddenly appeared on the pet's head. The man was shocked by this and immediately shouted to run. However, at this moment, 3 beads suddenly emitted a light. But unexpectedly, it was blocked by Fang Xiaolun with one hand, and some strange moves appeared in his mind. Then some black energy appeared in his hand and eroded the master of the pet in reverse along the light. The next second, the confused pet fell to the ground and died. This made the man next to him stunned. And at this moment, all the light suddenly gathered on the black egg again. It was because the black egg reached its limit. At this time, the giant in the distance saw this and guessed, could that egg be round? Then he pressed the communicator on his waist. He must dedicate it to the ghost-suppressing lord. When the black egg possessed the man, he could easily kill a giant monster. However, just as they were happy, the giant who was frozen activated the alarm. Suddenly, several monsters appeared out of thin air around them. However, these monsters of this level are very easy for the man. But at this time, Fang Xiaolun, who had turned back into a human, felt guilty. He was afraid that he couldn't even dodge one attack. However, the attacks of those monsters couldn't touch him. This made the man next to him stunned. His egg asked in confusion, was this person so strong before? The man understood. It's slowing down those attacks. This is indeed the despise bullet. Should we save him now? The man shook his head. We are still in the giant world. It's not a good time to take his ability. Otherwise, we can't leave here as soon as possible. Miss Phil is still waiting for us to save her. Let's break through first. At this time, Fang Xiaolun was still immersed in the joy of dodging the attack. Black Egg suddenly reminded him to take the key, otherwise he couldn't return to reality. He recalled he found the key was actually in front of the giant. Then he had to turn around and run back. Fortunately, the key was indeed lying on the ground. However, when he was picking it up, the giant suddenly moved and suddenly swung his fist and punched a hole in the ground. Fortunately, Hey Dan saved him in time and froze the giant again. However, at this moment, Hey Dan suddenly fell powerless into Feng Xiaolun's hand. When he was checking what happened to Haiden, the giant suddenly became active again. At this moment, he realized that it was the black egg. But now it seems to be asleep. The man in front of him couldn't escape. Then, he picked up Feng Xiaolun, who was running away. Meanwhile, the giant pet that was originally dead came back to life, which made the giant even happier. However, the next second, the pet directly snatched Feng Xiaolun from his hand and ran in a direction. This made the giant confused. Feng Xiaolun was stunned for a moment and then realized it was the energy erosion skill that was just released, which directly controlled him. The man in the distance still didn't understand the situation and was ready to go and rescue. Feng Xiaolun explained in time that the pet was with them, which made the man confused. But he still jumped onto the pet's back, the giant who was originally chasing them. But for some reason, stopped and didn't chase. Seeing the giant didn't chase, they breathed a sigh of relief. Feng Xiaolun began to introduce himself, asking what his name was. The man's name was Dongnan, because they were in the cave at the same time, so he was sucked in as well. Then Dongnan's egg jumped in front of Feng Xiaolun. This is the space jumping ability of the black egg. Then suddenly, a light came from his body. Dongnan immediately understood. He wanted to seize the ability of the black egg. However, at this moment, the black egg's wings suddenly stretched out and knocked him away. Dongnan held him in time. Didn't I tell you not to do it? At this time, Feng Xiaolong, who didn't know the situation, looked at Hey Dan happily. You're awake. Just then, he suddenly noticed that there seemed to be B ahead. He took a closer look and it was indeed, could this be the outside world of B? At this moment, Hey Dan suddenly trembled. Feng Xiaolun wondered if he was really okay. It turns out that Hey Dan used the defense reserve energy, so he was a little tired. Did that egg want to attack you? Black Egg doesn't know either, but he reminded that we should be cautious. Dongnan said we should sort out our thoughts first. Hey Dan should use the red egg as a medium to open the door, and the key in your hand can open it. Then they asked Haiden what happened. He directly drew on the ground. He drew a picture of an egg in a short time, but they couldn't understand it. Is this in the world where the egg was formed? Then Hey Dan began to explain that we are still in B. This is where we originally were, and then we came to this place below. Feng Xiaolun pointed to the large part below. What about these? The undiscovered land, which means the place that hasn't been discovered yet. Here it comes! The giant's rail press adult appeared. It turned out that after Hey Dan drew the map, Feng Xiaolun couldn't believe it. The place where humans live is so small. Why isn't it round? Dongnan explained, it may be that B makes people's 5 senses illusion. What surprised him most was that Dongnan said that, after all, it is a conscious being. Originally, Hey Dan should have known more, but his memories were lost. But everyone wondered why he could draw this picture. It turns out that he captured the starting point in 2 spaces and connected to this world through the red egg soldier. It means that he has to go back through these 2 places. But Black Egg shook his head. The starting point will disappear after use. But the medicine is the initial position of memory. Just find the door that is generated synchronously here, and it can go back. Originally, the door hole would be transmitted to the place where they just fell. However, during the transmission process, encountered a mysterious force interference, so it will fall randomly in this area. At this time, Donna suddenly asked Haiden excitedly, do you know where this ball is? If you can draw it, it will appear, and we should be able to find it. At this time, Feng Xiaolun found that they seemed familiar with this place. They definitely weren't here for the first time, since they didn't want to say it was not good to ask. It's good to have a tour guide. Then he asked Hey Dan if there was any way to narrow down. Unexpectedly, there is. That's the visual sharing function of a key. Through the keyhole, you can explore where he is. Then Black Egg asked him to close his eyes. Then the key was pointed at his eyes. When he opened his eyes again, he found a different scene. There were 3 people in front, and a castle illuminated by a light ball. And the keyhole was tied up, but it should be a person. Finally, he looked carefully at the woman's back in the distance. That mysterious power was sent by him before. Then the woman suddenly turned around. The next second, Feng Xiaolun returned to reality. Hey Dan just explained that when sharing the vision, the host's pupils will change. Then he drew the scene he saw. And when he exited the screen, he heard a woman scream. Dongnan asked if he had any other information. There were 2 people in cloaks next to him. The woman was all white. They should be in a cave, and looked at the city ahead, but they don't know if they are giants or ordinary people. And at this time, Hey Dan suddenly said he forgot to mention an important thing, As soon as the countdown ends, the key will disappear. Feng Xiaolun was speechless. That means they have to find it before the key disappears. At this moment, Dongnan asked everyone to be quiet. It seemed that there was movement on the mountain nearby. Then they started to run away. However, when Dongnan turned around and told Feng Xiaolun to run, he found a woman hugging him from behind. Dongnan immediately launched an attack, but he dodged it. When the dust settled, there was another man. He said if he could borrow it, he could tell them where the city was. Dongnan wondered when he started following them. Unexpectedly, he followed them when they fought giants. The man asked if he would lend it. Dongnan said, "This is your attitude of borrowing things." The woman shook her head. "It's not you who asked." The man said he would deal with the man in the mask first, and then talk to you, the lonely master. The next second, he instantly appeared in front of Dongnan and blinked his eyes and traveled back and forth in his body many times. Just as Dongnan wondered why he didn't feel hurt, he suddenly took a real combo. It turned out that those were illusions. However, the man discovered his inner secret. Dongnan was afraid of himself without a mask. This made Dongnan directly use his ultimate move. How dare he peep into his heart? But he couldn't hurt him at all. At this time, Feng Xiaolun said that the man didn't move at all. Don't be deceived. The man just installed a cruel on his neck. Unexpectedly, the next second, he grew a pair of wings. It turned out that when Feng Xiaolun and Dongnan met the second person, Feng Xiaolun was captured in the next second, and Dongnan fought with his brother to save him. But Feng Xiaolun found that Di didn't move at all. The one fighting with Dongnan was just an illusion, but they found that their punches hit each other. He can exchange body parts of his doppelganger freely. However, Feng Xiaolun was puzzled. Why he told him this secret? It turned out that this was Di's sincerity. He just hoped that Feng Xiaolun could cooperate with him. And at this moment, Dongnan was also captured by his doppelganger. Seeing this, Feng Xiaolun had to compromise. Let Di agree to two conditions. First, let Dongnan go, and the second is to take them to that city. Unexpectedly, Di agreed very readily, and his request was to ask Black Egg to help him control the mouth of the giant. This made Feng Xiaolun and Di very puzzled. What is that thing? Di said he would explain on the way. Then he let the controlled giant run to the other side to attract the giant behind, and they walked into a mountain full of caves. Then Di tapped the button on the wall, and then a bottomless hole appeared out of thin air. They thought there were steps, but when Feng Xiaolun looked closer, there was nothing. However, at this moment, Di suddenly kicked him in. Then he kept falling down. And then Di also jumped down. This made Dongnan sweat profusely. A girl next to him handed him something and asked him to put it on the back of his head and imagine that he has wings. Meanwhile, Di quickly caught up with the falling direction and then placed a command on his neck and let him control the butterfly wings at the back of his neck. This made him confused. There were no wings. But Di didn't mean to help him. Soon, the ground was getting closer and closer to him. Fortunately, at the last moment, a pair of wings suddenly broke out. First, the wings supported on the ground, then bounced and flew up. However, this scene surprised the younger brother. When did the weak wings become so hard and even cracked the ground? Could it be the influence of his ability? At this time, Feng Xiaolun was still excited about having wings to fly. Then the others followed the younger brother to fly forward. They didn't expect their younger brother to have such a scene. They introduced that this is one of the ancient ruins, Haichu. Only then did Feng Xiaolun remember that. Di has always called Heidan an ancient relic. He asked why he called it that. 100 years ago, everyone had an egg by their side. So, because someone brought something from the Forbidden Land, which caused a large number of eggs to disappear for no reason. So there are few left now. So it's called an ancient relic. But the giant shell is an exception. And the reason why they want to control it is to let him find countless cherry blossoms. Feng Xiaolun wondered what it was. It turns out that his hand and his mother were giantified. Only this can be lifted. Only then did Feng Xiaolun realize that Di's hands were bigger. The man accidentally got a black egg and then came to a different world and encountered a mysterious area. He came to the underground world. All this is just to ask him for help. At this time, Feng Xiaolun learned that the control of the giant shell is to save him and his mother. He thought Di wasn't that hateful. Then he asked Di whether they already knew the world was formed by eggs. Di replied yes, while his mother called it the egg of life. She didn't say anything else about it. At this time, Di suddenly flew down. It turned out that they arrived. When they arrived on the ground, they found many huge, Feng Xiaolun wondered what this was. The girl told him that it was a guardian knot. If it weren't for his younger brother, Feng Xiaolun and his brother would have been eaten, which made him walk properly immediately. Soon, they came to a chain-locked egg. Feng Xiaolun wondered if this was the giant shell, but then the egg suddenly opened. But the chain was locking the egg inside. Its size is similar to that of the little black egg beside it, but different in color, and the shells outside are the ones it produced. Feng Xiaolun curiously asked how it made people giants. The girl pointed to the pink layer of shell. It's the third layer. You have seen it before. The big ball above the prophet, which is made of its shell. They just want to use to control the world. At this time, the emperor stepped forward. He held the green egg and then tore the chains apart. This thing exists as a scourge. However, unexpectedly, the egg opened its mouth and hurt you. To find the silver flower of poison art? No way. Dee immediately took it to the black egg and said, control it. At this time, the green egg also noticed the black egg and said in surprise that there are still the same kind. It's absurd. Feng Xiaolun wondered why he said that. The air here still has lethal egg mist. He survived in the eggshell. Feng Xiaolun immediately asked Dee what happened. The lethal egg secret was brought out from the Forbidden's land. Originally, the egg secret existed as egg nutrition, but after coming out, it evolved into a microbial state and began to multiply in large numbers, which led to the collective death of eggs. After hearing this, asked if He Dan felt uncomfortable, but He Dan felt very comfortable staying here. Then he asked Dongnan's egg, but Dongnan replied that he was fine. This made Feng Xiaolun puzzled. Could it be because they came from different worlds? What he didn't know was that, in fact, when Dongnan's egg first came to this world, it was almost poisoned to death. Dongnan was surprised that Haiden was fine. Whether it's because of you or him, Danley also came from the core area, and the girl also said at this time, curious. Your world. Everyone has a brain. But hey, Dan interrupted him. Quickly control him for me. But he shook his head because the energy lost in the previous battle hadn't been restored. Dee couldn't wait and asked. Dee asked how long. Black Egg said that under the nourishment of egg honey, it will take another 15 minutes. But the green egg in the junior brother's hand was not happy. You're lying. Egg honey nourishes. And just then, someone came to tell him that Tam was awake. Dan immediately threw the egg into the shell and killed it. Then he ran in a direction, and Feng Xiaolun followed. On the way, they found many forks here, and it could easily get lost. At this time, he noticed a mural on the wall. Many little people in the painting were walking towards the egg. Feng Xiaolun guessed that this might be the world projection. Dongnan behind them also noticed the mural. The egg next to him said before that finding zero rail to find the exit of the source of life. Could this be the right direction? Dongnan shook his head. If so, we would have found it. I found the one who modified you. Let us approach the egg of disadvantage. He should be guiding them to find the exit. His goal is BY's world. Just then, they came to a bedroom. What appeared in front of us was a beauty lying in bed. But she has a pair of unusually large feet, and this is the ground. You finally wake up. This time, I slept for more than half a month. How do you feel now? It's not that painful anymore. I have good news for you. It will never happen again. I'll find the cherry blossom of the poisonous tree soon. He was stunned. Really? Dee immediately took the black egg to him. Look what this is. However, Amy's face changed when she saw the black egg. She couldn't help but think of her dead husband's words. When the black egg appeared, it's your day of death. When you meet it, you must avoid it. The woman found that the egg in her hand was connected to her, and she felt that the egg had no malice towards her. But her husband predicted that when the black egg appeared, it would be her time to die. It turned out that Chuan's face changed when he saw the black egg. Her son Dee quickly asked what happened, but she dared not tell him the truth. She could only change the subject. Most of the silver flowers of the poison tree were destroyed, and some of them hide by themselves. Can they really be found? Feng Xiaolun was stunned. They can hide themselves. Isn't that like a monster? How to catch them? Dee said not to worry. The giant's core can secrete an egg coagulant, which is what they like. Feng Xiaolun understands why the black egg controls the green egg. But the world is so big, where can they smell the ground? Zhuan said he had found several possible hiding places. At this time, Xuan saw that Dee was ready. She sighed that he had finally grown up, and he can rest assured to give the bone ball to him. However, what worries him is that controlling the bone ball requires strong mental power. He doesn't know if Dee can handle it. Meanwhile, he was worried about Feng Xiaolun's sincerity. However, at this moment, a voice sounded in his heart. Are you afraid of me? Zhuan was shocked, and then found that the voice came from the black egg. But only he could hear it. Just as he wondered what was going on, the black egg's voice sounded again. There's something on you which forcibly established a connection with me. He immediately understood. Could it be the ancient ball? The black egg said it should be him, telling Zhuan not to be afraid. At this moment, he suddenly hugged the black egg. It turned out that he could sense Haiden's true emotions through the drum ball, knowing that they were not bad people. And the first person wondered what was going on. Let them go out first. He had something to say to Fang Xiaowen about the secret of this world, and the girl outside wondered why Di came out. And obviously a little unhappy. At this time, Di turned to look at him. It seems that we haven't practiced for a long time. Why not do it now? He felt something was wrong and turned to run. I still have something to deal with. Helplessly, Di looked southeast. You loser, didn't you say you want to fight me again? Come on, I'm not afraid. Not long after, Fang Xiaolun came out from inside. It turns out that Yoguei was the first batch of humans to enter this world. There's a mysterious hymn behind them, whose purpose is to cultivate food in this world, and the so-called food is eggs. At the beginning, the monitor said that white eggs were ingredients, red eggs are guards, and black eggs were the outcasts. That's what it means. At this time, Di and Dongnan came from afar. He found Dongnan's face was swollen than before, asking what happened. Dongnan quickly changed the subject. What's the matter with the bag on your chest? It's for Aunt Yu to put the keys in. Then he looked at Di. By the way, Auntie asked you to come in, but Di didn't stop and kept walking. It's time to find Yanhua. A woman to escape with her child, killed a man with her hair. What he didn't know was that a sprout grew from the man's wound, and the blood on his hair would expose his location. It turned out that when Di was going to find the douche's cherry blossoms, Fang Xiaolun stopped him. Because his mother Xuan, she had something important to tell him. But at this moment, Di acted like a child and was still angry that his mother had just avoided him. Tell Fang Xiaolun alone, as if he had become an outsider. Then he said sarcastically, if you have anything to say, just tell me, an outsider. Just tell you directly. Why don't you just recognize her as your godmother? Fang Xiaolun knew what he meant. Thinking that Zhuan said all for his brother's sake, but his younger brother was still sulking. He was so angry that he directly replied, you idiot. You're a brat, and you're showing off your temper. This made Di and Dongnan both froze in place. Then Di reacted and wanted to punch Fang Xiaolun once. However, what he didn't expect was that he, who's always weak, easily pushed away Di's huge hand, and there was a force constantly overflowing from his hand. But at this time, Fang Xiaolun didn't notice that he was still teaching his brother, which only makes his mother worry and cry, growing so tall for nothing, which directly made his younger brother laugh. I'm so strong, why should I worry? Besides, he has never seen his mother cry. You're lying without preparation. Fang Xiaolun sneered. If you don't believe it, just go in and see. Seeing his expression, Di walked into the room with doubt. Seeing Di go in, Fang Xiaolun breathed a sigh of relief. It finally succeeded. At this time, Heidian asked Fang Xiaolun, what happened to that power just now? He was also puzzled. He was stronger than other kids when he was young. But it suddenly disappeared, and the feeling just came back. But he still doesn't know the reason. Meanwhile, Di entered the room but found that his mother wasn't crying, and immediately thought that Fang Xiaolun had tricked him, and his mother knew he was angry, and couldn't help but talk about his childhood. Once he was sulking, and went out alone, but was discovered by the ghost catchers, and he had to kill someone to save him. But my younger brother didn't know these things, because the man had been following him. Then he took him to a hidden place, and then took out something. It turned out that he came out to prepare a birthday gift for him. I was so moved that I hugged him, and at this moment, Di found the blood on his hair moving. He immediately remembered. Yagui has the ability to track blood. He felt something was wrong, but Di told himself not to be nervous, because the terrain here is complex. It's hard to find, and he was going to set a trap. Thinking about that time, Di was actually very sensible since he was a child. Now, the older he gets, he holds many words in his heart,